Hello once again. I've got another piece of broadcast video equipment to show you guys today. This is a Sony model PVW-2600 Betacam SP VCR, and it was made in 1993. This is a playback-only VCR, which I know means I should be calling it a VCP, and I probably already have people berating me in the comments for it. But I use the term VCR in the title of the video because people know what a VCR is, compared to the term VCP, which is less common. But this is indeed a playback-only Betacam SP machine. This came from the TV station. It's one of two Betacam SP VCRs at the TV station, the other being the VCR-1800, which is the one that sits mounted and ready to go at any time in the editing suite. This guy's basically been in storage for as long as the TV station owned it. They just never had a use for it. And when I discovered it back in the fall, it actually didn't quite work properly. It needed manual help to thread a tape, and when it played a tape, the RF meter, which is right there, would not budge, so it wasn't picking any signal up off the tape, and indeed you would not get any signal on a monitor. But I recently brought this thing home because, as you guys know, because I do weekly live streams about it, I've been doing a ton of videotape digitization for the TV station, mostly U-matic stuff. Recently we've started doing SVHS stuff. I brought the Panasonic AG7350 back home. I've made a video of that VCR before. But I decided to bring this thing home, see if I could get it working properly, because I wanted to get a start on the Betacam tapes. We have a massive number of Betacam tapes, just as many, if not more, than we have U-matic and SVHS tapes. And the reason I didn't start on the Betacam tapes until now was because Betacam is so much higher quality than U-matic or SVHS that I wasn't sure if my method of transferring the tapes, which transfers them into a DV format, would do the Betacam tapes justice. I didn't know if I'd be losing too much quality transferring them to DV versus a better quality format, because DV is a fine format, especially for consumer use and low-end professional use. But DV's Achilles heel is that it only has 411 chroma subsampling, which means that for every 4 pixels of the video image, they can have 4 different luminance values, but all 4 pixels will have the same chrominance value. So your color resolution with DV is only a quarter of your luminance resolution. Now, in the broadcast industry, the standard is called MPEG 422. It uses 422 chroma subsampling, which means that for every 2 pixels, there is 1 chroma sample. So you get better chroma resolution, better color resolution than you do with DV. And I don't have any equipment here to do an MPEG 422 digitization. All I have is stuff to do DV. And I knew DV was fine for the U-matic and SVHS stuff because those formats just don't have very good color resolution to begin with. The U-matic and SVHS only have 30 lines of chroma resolution. But Betacam SP has, I believe, 120 lines of chroma resolution, so quadruple the chroma resolution of U-matic or SVHS. So I didn't know if I would have to buy or otherwise acquire equipment to do MPEG 422 transfers here, or would DV be okay for the Betacam tapes. So we did a test. I took a Betacam tape, transferred it here at home using my own equipment to DV, and I did a transfer up at the TV station using the TV station's equipment, using the VCR-1800 VCR to get an MPEG 422 transfer. And I looked at it side by side, and the station manager looked at it side by side, and we looked at each other, and we agreed that we couldn't see any difference. So as far as I'm concerned, and as far as the station manager is concerned, I am not doing the Betacam tapes injustice by transferring them to DV rather than MPEG 422. So, I'm finally starting to transfer the Betacam tapes. We had our first Betacam digitization stream just this weekend, and people really loved it. And I ran a poll on Twitter asking what people wanted to see in the next stream, U-matic, SVHS, or Betacam, and the result was overwhelmingly Betacam. So it's a good thing that I have this VCR here, and I did manage to get this VCR working perfectly. I lubricated the mechanism, and that got it able to thread a tape all the way without any manual assistance needed. And I cleaned the head drum, and that got it working perfectly, and it produces a beautiful signal. And here comes a train. So let's talk about Betacam. Betacam was introduced in 1982, and it was meant to complement U-matic. In 1982, U-matic was the standard for broadcast videotape, unless you were a really, really big and rich station, then you had Type C or quadruplex. But for the smaller stations, you had U-matic was the videotape standard. And Betacam was introduced not to replace U-matic, but to replace U-matic portapacks. Betacam's big feature was that it had a much smaller cassette than U-matic. But the cassette could only hold 30 minutes of footage. So even though it was only half the length of U-matic, it was the same length as a U-matic S cassette, but it was a little bit smaller and much, much, much higher quality. And a U-matic S camcorder was never made, but Betacam had camcorders right off the bat. The mechanism could be made smaller compared to a U-matic S mechanism. So Betacam was meant to complement U-matic. You would have a Betacam camcorder and record your footage with your Betacam camcorder, and then when you were back at the TV station making the program, you would dub the footage onto U-matic in the editing process. So you used Betacam for your raw footage and U-matic for your finished program. That's how it was meant to work in the beginning. And Betacam uses a tape that looks like this. And if you think this cassette, this happens to be a Betacam SP cassette, if you think this cassette looks similar to a Betamax cassette, you would be right. It is identical to a Betamax cassette. Betacam and Betamax use cassettes that are physically identical, and as a matter of fact, the original Betacam format, the cassettes are compatible with Betamax cassettes. You could use a Betamax cassette in a Betacam camcorder, and you could use a Betacam cassette in a Betamax VCR. They were both ferric oxide tape. The only difference was the Betacam tapes were more expensive and manufactured to a higher grade, specified, guaranteed for less dropouts and such. But otherwise, they were identical to Betamax cassettes. The tape just runs much faster. Betamax and Betacam are not signal compatible. They are completely different recording formats that just happen to use identical tape and an identical cassette. A cassette that holds 3 hours of footage recorded in the Beta 2 speed will only fit 30 minutes of footage in a Betacam camcorder. Betacam runs the tape so much faster because it has to store way more information because Betacam is such high quality. And that's where Betacam shone, and that's actually why Betacam took over U-matic eventually as the main broadcast videotape format of choice, not just for camcorders but for everything, was because Betacam was so high quality. What made Betacam so high quality is that it records a component signal format. So U-matic, VHS, and Betamax are YC signal formats. So you have your luminance information and your chrominance information. But Betacam records a component format, so you have your luminance information and then red, green, and blue all recorded as separate streams of information. That allows it to be such high quality, way higher resolution. The original Betacam format has a luminance resolution slightly higher than VHS, Betamax, and U-matic. Not quite as high as U-matic SP, but because of how the chrominance signal is actually recorded, the chrominance resolution was so much higher, way higher than Betamax, VHS, or U-matic SP. And then, in 1986, Betacam SP replaced Betacam, and Betacam SP had some huge upgrades, which made Betacam SP, as far as I know, the largest professional videotape standard ever made. The longest lived, the most used. Betacam SP was huge. Introduced in 1986. I think there were some TV stations that were using it well into the 2000s, basically until those stations went high definition. Betacam SP was so high quality that it just went and went and went, and people kept using it for years, even after better formats, digital formats, took over. Betacam SP just went on and on and on because it was so good. Betacam SP introduced the large size cassettes. So for the first time, Betacam wasn't just limited to camcorders. With Betacam SP, you could finally replace all your old U-matic equipment with Betacam equipment, because the large cassettes, and I regret that I don't have one here, so I'm going to have to show you a picture. You can see there's a large Betacam cassette next to a small cassette and a VHS cassette. The large Betacam cassettes are a little bit bigger than a VHS. They hold 90 minutes of footage, so 50% longer than a U-matic cassette. So with Betacam SP, finally, Betacam could be used for program tapes, not just raw footage from a camcorder. But there were big signal upgrades with Betacam SP2. Betacam SP uses metal particle tape instead of ferric oxide tape. So that means that you cannot use a Betacam SP cassette in a Betamax VCR. The metal particle tape does not, I don't know if it would even work properly, but you also risk prematurely damaging the heads in a Betamax VCR, because Betacam SP VCRs have heads made of harder material meant to withstand the metal particle tape, because it's a lot harder tape than ferric oxide tape. But interestingly, according to Wikipedia, you can put a Betacam SP tape in an original Betacam camcorder, only for playback though. But apparently original Betacam VCRs and camcorders are forwards compatible for playback with Betacam SP recordings, and it's okay to use the metal particle tape in them, which I find very interesting. Forwards compatible playback capability. But there was a lot of improvement in the picture resolution with Betacam SP2. The luminance resolution of Betacam SP is actually slightly better than U-matic SP, and slightly better than the actual resolution of broadcast television. So that's why Betacam SP held on until pretty much the end of standard definition television, was because there was no need to upgrade to anything better when your broadcast wasn't going to see the improvement anyway. In fact, as far as I can gather from my research, Betacam SP was the highest quality analog video cassette format ever made. No other video cassette format ever improved on Betacam SP unless it was a digital format. The only videotape formats at all, as far as I know, that are better than Betacam SP are Type C and Quadruplex. So that is pretty darn impressive. So although Betacam SP held on until videotape as a whole was obsolete, it was by far not the last iteration of Betacam. There were actually several more iterations. In 1993, digital Betacam came out, which uses the same cassettes, same metal particle tape, but it records a digital signal. Not DV, it's an MPEG 422 type format, and the recording times were the same. And then in 1996, Betacam SX came out. I have a Betacam SX portable VCR. I've made a video about it. Again, same cassettes, same metal particle tape, and it also records a digital signal, also MPEG 422, but it's more compressed than digital Betacam. So while digital Betacam runs at the same speed as Betacam and Betacam SP, so you only get half an hour to a small tape or 90 minutes to a large tape, those figures double for Betacam SX. You can get an hour out of a small tape or 3 hours out of a large tape. So that was the advantage to Betacam SX. And then in 1997, get this, HD Cam came out. Again, same cassette, same metal particle tape, but guess what? 1080i. Yes, Betacam was the cassette for what was probably one of the very first, if not the first, high-definition videotape formats, digital high-definition videotape formats, HD Cam, 1080i video onto a Betacam tape. How cool is that? And in 2003, an improved version of HD Cam called HD Cam SR came out that actually did change the tape. It used a higher density metal particle tape to allow for higher bitrate compared to normal HD Cam. And funny enough, HD Cam SR is the reason that Sony kept making Betacam cassettes until 2016, I think? But it was kind of a big thing in tech news not too many moons ago that, oh, Sony finally stops making beta cassettes after, 40 years or whatever. But of course, they didn't specify that it was Betacam tapes that they were making, so people thought for some reason Sony kept making Betamax tapes for like 30 years after Betamax failed. But no, it was Betacam tapes, and Sony only quit making them, HD Cam SR tapes specifically, only quit making them like a couple of years ago or a few years ago. Very impressive. And amusingly, between HD Cam and HD Cam SR, Sony came out with the last standard definition iteration of Betacam called MPEG IMX. It doesn't even have Betacam in the name, it's just called MPEG IMX. And MPEG IMX improved over Betacam SX by upping the bitrate and also doubling the number of audio channels from 4 to 8. So there's everything you never wanted to know about Betacam. Now let's talk about the VCR itself. So this is a PVW-2600, and it was made in 1993, which actually makes it 1 year older than the U-matic VCR I have here, which I think is hilarious. This was meant to be a basic broadcast grade playback machine. So it's heavier duty and built more solidly and more high quality than the UVW series of Betacam SP VCRs, which were just commercial grade VCRs, not necessarily meant for broadcast use. So it's a heavier duty, higher quality machine, but it's only a basic machine. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles that a even higher end broadcast grade playback machine might have. You can see on the front panel here, we don't have that many controls, but in a lot of cases, that's all you needed. So there's where your cassette goes in, and it can take either the large cassette or the small cassette. You just slot the small cassette in the middle there. You got your power switch, VU meters for each of the 2 audio channels. Betacam SP has hi-fi stereo audio. You get a headphone jack for monitoring, your playback volume controls, so you can leave them pushed in and it's at the preset value, or you can pull them out and make adjustments. If you were playing a really quiet tape or really loud tape over the air, you could adjust accordingly. Like the U-matic machine, this has an audio monitor jack on it, and you can choose whether you want to monitor channel 1, channel 2, or both. Your RF meter, that shows basically your signal quality coming off the tape, and you would use this in conjunction with the tracking control, manual tracking on this machine, and you turn the control until the RF meter is up as high as possible, usually right at that 3 value is the highest. Your switch for how you're controlling the machine, local by default or remote if you have a remote plugged into the remote jack. You have an LED tape counter. And another thing Betacam introduced was the ability to show different types of time codes. CTL is control. That's a time code that the VCR itself generates on the control, based off the control track. Time code, TC is time code. That's the time code built into the tape. And then I don't actually know what U-bit is. I've never learned what that's supposed to be. You get a jog and shuttle wheel, which is great. So it's a jog wheel right now, push it in, and now it's a shuttle wheel. And this VCR has very good shuttle control compared to, for example, the SVHS machine, which is kind of slow and floppy. Because the SVHS machine has a single motor, whereas this has 2 direct drive motors for the tape reels. And you get little LED indicators here showing whether you're in shuttle mode or jog mode. Pressing search there at any time puts it into the shuttle or jog mode. And then you get stop, fast forward, play, rewind, eject, and standby. Standby is kind of neat. What it does is, of course, when you put in a tape, it immediately threads it up. But if you want the VCR to keep the tape threaded up, but spin the heads down because you might not need the tape for a while, you can hit that standby button and it shuts down the head drum to save wear and tear on it, but the tape remains threaded up. That's pretty cool. It's kind of like a manually actuated quick play feature that you'd find on a later VHS VCR. And then this does have a menu. The LED display shows the menu settings in a very basic numeric form. But I believe if you hook a monitor up to one of the composite outputs, the composite output marked Super, you do get an on-screen text-based menu that you can see. And you get a servo light there that lights up when the head drum has successfully locked onto the signal on the tape. If you were playing a tape and that wasn't lit up, something's very wrong. And oh, you get a tape counter reset right there if you're on the control track counter, and reverse and forward lights for the jog and shuttle wheel, just like on my Betacam SX machine. And that's it. Not a whole lot. Kind of a neat thing about this control panel is you can articulate it. You can lift it all the way up 90 degrees, which is really nice. Good ergonomics. Where you can have it totally flat or anywhere in between. But a secret hides within this machine if you look what's under the control panel. Look at this, we got a lot more controls. As a matter of fact, this thing has an entire proc amp. That's industry slang for processing amplifier. You got adjustments for your video level, your chroma level, your setup, that's your black level. YC delay, I don't even know what it is, but we got it. And your hue or chroma phase. We got another menu. I don't know what that switch is. Oh yeah, this VCR has a built-in time-based corrector. And that makes all the difference when it comes to digitizing these, because DV has pretty much no tolerance for any noisy video or jumpy video or anything, but this thing having a built-in time-based corrector makes that a complete non-issue. It is so nice. And I'm glad for that, because the time-based corrector that I tried using for the U-matic and SVHS transfers really doesn't work. I think it might actually not be functioning properly, but I'm not sure. This chooses between, so when you're on the TC mode, you can choose either VITC, which is vertical interval time code. That's time code that's embedded, the data's embedded into the vertical blanking interval. Or LTC, which is linear time code, which is actually embedded into an audio track. Which one is better to use? What situations would you prefer one or the other? I don't know. But we have it. And then character turns the on-screen characters on and off. If you have a monitor plugged into the super composite output, you can choose whether the superimposed text actually turns on and off. You'd have a superimposed time code, or tape counter rather, and stuff like that. And then Betacam actually has Dolby noise reduction, and you can turn that on and off for this. And then we have an electronic hour meter, but it doesn't seem to work on this machine. It just doesn't light up or anything. And then we have capstan lock. I have this same setting on my Betacam SX machine. I don't know what these mean, but we have it. Dolby C noise reduction. Cool. Looking on the back of this behemoth, we have 2 cooling fans. How insane is that? Not one, but 2 cooling fans. Here's your info sticker. 93A, so first quarter of 1993. And this thing uses 120 watts of power. And it was made in Japan, of course. We get a ground terminal. Takes an IEC-C13 plug, just like a computer. XLR jacks for audio outputs, channel 1 and 2, and the monitor output. And for our video inputs, we have 3 different composite outputs. We have a sync output. We have our component output, which for some reason is labeled component 2. Oh, there's component 1. Some sort of, I don't know if it's a proprietary connector, but it's certainly weird. We have S-video out, which is nice. And then very cool, look at this. We have a U-matic dub connector. This would be used to dub your Betacam tapes onto U-matic. And the reason you use a proprietary plug for that, rather than just going through the composite out, is because your U-matic recorder, which would have a U-matic dub input, bypasses some of the stages of the recording process in the U-matic VCR to give you higher quality. So this dub output outputs a more raw form of the video that bypasses some of the conversion steps. So you get higher quality onto U-matic. And of course this harkens back to when Betacam was what you used to record your raw footage, and then U-matic was what you dubbed your final program onto. We have a time code out, and no video input because this is just a playback machine, but we do have 2 sync inputs. I don't know why we have 2. I don't know, maybe one's just a loop through, perhaps, so you can daisy chain stuff. We have an RS-422 serial remote jack, and something called a time-based corrector remote. I guess so you could control the time-based corrector built into this VCR. And there you go. What a behemoth. Next, let me take the cover off this thing and I'll show you inside it. Actually, first, how about we turn this on? There we go. You can hear the fans ramping up. We'll stick in a tape right quick. And there the standby light lights up. That means it's finished threading the tape. And we can hit play. And it begins playing. It's actually reading the time code off the tape. If I switch it to the control track, there you can see it looks pretty much the same because the time code happened to be on 0 as well. And if I hit the search key to activate our shuttle control, or we don't have to hit the search key, we can just hit our shuttle control, but there you can see. And for some reason the time code jumped to 59 minutes if I look at the control track. Very responsive control on this. See that? Very fine control with the jog wheel, frame by frame. And you can see our RF meter there, looking good. If I fiddle with the tracking control, you can see it falls. And apparently we're on a part of the tape with no audio. Let me fast forward here. There we go. And notice how quiet this thing is, the mechanism, compared to the clickety-clackety of the U-matic. So we'll stop and rewind. And eject. Now let's look inside this thing. With the cover off, here's inside the unit. Notice all the circuitry is on removable cards. Very easy for service. We've got a lot of decomposing gooey foam that I should probably clean out of this. And we've actually got a little bit of surface rust on some parts, but everything works. Here's your head drum. And interestingly, we'll pop our tape in again and take a look at this. It's an M-load system, like my Betacam SX machine, which surprised me. I thought that that was unique to my Betacam SX machine, just to save space or whatever. But this thing does it too. But Betacam doesn't exclusively use the M-load system, because the VCR VCR that we have back in the station, that uses a circular load system like U-matic and Betamax. So it's very interesting to me that some Betacam VCRs use the circular or beta-shaped loading pattern, and then this machine and my portable machine use an M-load pattern like VHS. I'm befuddled as to why some machines use one way and some use the other way. Maybe the M-load system was just more reliable. I don't know. It's very interesting though. But there's our pinch roller down there, and it feels good still, nice and rubbery. And if I hit play here, look at how fast the tape moves. That's as fast as a Betamax machine in Betascan. Really fast tape movement. And you can see the tape moving there, and if I pause it and start playing with the jog wheel, you can see just how fine motion I have, how fine the control I have is. I can move it so slowly, and back and forth it switches directions instantly, unlike the SVHS machine, which has to switch a cam gear or whatever, or an idler gear to go in the other direction. This is all direct drive. Go into shuttle mode. really impressive control over the tape transport. Very impressive. So we'll eject the tape here. Oh, and one more thing to mention. Unlike U-matic, where the large and small tapes have the tape reels in the same positions, the tape reels in a small Betacam tape are actually closer together than in a large Betacam tape. So in order for this thing to be able to play both sizes of tapes, the reel tables actually move. It detects what size tape you're putting in, and it moves the reel tables. They're on worm gears. Very cool. That's the loading motor. You can see no belts involved. It's all gear driven. This entire machine is either direct drive or gear driven. I think the only belt in this machine is for the cassette carriage. And another nice thing about this machine that makes it easy to service is by removing that screw there and that screw there, the entire cassette carriage lifts out, just like a U-matic VCR. And I actually removed the cassette carriage in this thing to lubricate the mechanism. And yeah, very nice and very easy. You just unplug this one connector right here. I now have the big PVM hooked up. We're hooked up through the S-Video because I'm too lazy to run 3 BNC cables for component. But we'll stick in our tape here. And you can see we almost immediately get a picture, and it's paused. And right away I can use the jog wheel. And look at this. I have control that's so fine. I'm showing 2 fields at once. That's what that gray line is. That's the that's separating the 2 fields. How cool is that? Or maybe 2 frames, I don't know. But that is such fine control. Look at that, huh? Go backwards. Full speed rewind and fast forward, you can still see the image. Very fast. And watch this, we're stopped right now. If I hit the standby button, it keeps the video output active, so you can actually see the effect of the head drum spinning down. Look at this. How cool is that? That's the head drum spinning down. And then I'll hit it again to spool it back up. And there's our picture. Made possible by the excellent time-based corrector built into this VCR. Funny enough, on this tape, there's the VW-2600, the playback-only version of the VW-1800. But really, the quality of Betacam is just second to none. It really is.
Serving New Brunswick, this is Fundy Cable, community television.
Well, I think that's all there is to show of the Sony PVW-2600 Betacam SP playback VCR from 1993. What a nice unit, and what a nice format. Betacam sure is a really, really beautiful format, and it's no wonder that it lasted for over 30 years, because the quality, especially with Betacam SP and the digital Betacam variants, is just second to none. This is such an incredible improvement over U-matic and Super VHS. And it's a fun format to play around with. If you can get your hands on a Betacam recorder like a UVW-1800, the UVW series are great VCRs because they're not enormous like this. They're like 3/4 or maybe even half the size and weight of one of these broadcast grade ones. But it's a really excellent format, and this is a really excellent VCR. And I think it's going to serve us very well. We're digitizing Betacam tapes now during the live streams, And I think this VCR is going to do pretty great, and I'm really excited for what kind of stuff we're going to see on Betacam on those live streams. So there you go. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed learning about the ins and outs of analog Betacam, and I'll see you in the next video.